Hey guys, what is up? I am outside at a park today because it is so beautiful in Los Angeles right now. I'm going to be talking about journaling because it's something that I mentioned in my last video, which was all about writing and my writing tips and my process, and I found it so helpful in recent years. Oftentimes when I feel like writing or I know I need to be writing but I'm procrastinating, I found that journaling can be a really great way to enter into that phase. And it's a little bit easier, it's a little less pressure. If you're writing fiction, a lot of times it can be hard to sort of grasp it and either get to the characters or figure out the setting and the description, just because it's all in your imagination. And like my professor of creative writing likes to say, imagination is a lot of hard work, and it really is. It's not easy. And so sometimes I find that just writing a little bit in my journal can really help to sort of get the flow going. So I am not one of those people who has a super beautiful, organized, artistic journal where I journal every day. I don't have a strict regimen. It's just not really how my brain works, and oftentimes my journal is a notebook for school where I'll write random notes, also a place where I scribble down any interesting thought that I want to think about but I don't have time to think about in the moment. I'll just sort of jot it down in my journal, and so it's sort of my like brainstorming creativity place. I will sometimes write more diary entry-esque journal pages. Sometimes I'm more in the mood to write fiction and I'm not quite ready to start writing it on the computer, or I just feel like I need a little break. I think oftentimes writing with pen and paper is a little bit more fun and romantic, and it just feels easier to get that creative flow going than it is on the computer sometimes. Something about the technologies just like zaps the creativity out of my mind. I do both personal non-fiction writing, idea brainstorming, fiction writing, and I also do some manifestation / gratitude journaling. So I'm gonna give you guys some of my favorite tips and some of the ways that I use journaling in the creative process. I feel like sometimes having a daily habit of journaling can really help, and I have done this in the past where I'll just commit to a really small task, like I'll do 1 sentence a day or 2 sentences a day, or I'll sit down for 20 minutes and time it, and that really does help with building that schedule. But it seems like my creativity kind of just comes and goes at will, and sometimes just having a schedule doesn't really work for me. But whenever I do have spare time, I will try to dedicate some of it to writing in my journal, whether it is nonfiction or fiction or just a list or gratitude. I literally just saw a crow with a rat in its mouth flying above me. Okay. Also, I think it's really useful to figure out what time of day you're the most creative, and I know this is just different for everyone. One of my professors says that he stays up really late every night, and that's when he gets all of his reading and writing done, and I just like don't know how that's possible, because I feel like by the time 6 p.m. comes around I'm already exhausted and ready to sleep. So for me, in the morning is my favorite time to write, and I've actually built like my life and my schedule around using that time in the morning to create, to write in my journal, to start writing my stories. I think figuring out what time is going to be ideal for you, and then however strictly you want to stick to a schedule, whether you just sort of want to have a loose estimate of I want to journal 3 days a week, it's just helpful to know what time is going to be most efficient for you and the most productive. Also remember just not to succumb to perfectionism with journal writing. As you can see, my journal is kind of like a disastrous mess. My handwriting's not pretty. The only thing that matters for me is that my ideas are going down somewhere and I'm documenting them, and somehow the process that started in my brain is now being translated onto paper. I think that's all that really matters. So if you want to make your journal beautiful and artistic, that's amazing, good for you. But if you're also just intimidated by that idea, or you don't think that you can stick to a regimented schedule, don't think that journaling isn't for you, because I think it's helpful for everyone. One, if you're writing nonfiction, you're writing about your life, you have a place to be extremely vulnerable and introspective, and I think that's so valuable. Even if you do ultimately want to write fiction, I think a great place to start are those really emotional, intimate moments with yourself that can be translated into great prose and great fiction. If you want to focus specifically or exclusively on fiction. I think diary entries in characters' lives can be really helpful. Actually, one of my lovely subscribers commented this on my last video, and I thought that was just such a great idea. I have actually done that a couple of times, and it's really useful. I think writing in first person can be super valuable if you're trying to get inside the head of a character. And really, there's not that much of a difference between writing from your own first person perspective about your own life and writing from a character's perspective, but you're just kind of shifting the context and you're imagining different circumstances. And I think a journal is such a great place to start with that. I feel like it kind of takes the pressure off. It doesn't have to be good, it's just a place to get going. So I found it super invaluable when I'm trying to start writing and nothing's really coming to me. Another thing that I really like to do is just writing my goals down and writing a visualization / manifestation paragraph. Whenever I'm sort of feeling down or feeling like I'm not accomplishing enough, I found that just writing down, first of all, exactly what I want to accomplish in the span of this week or this day or this year really just makes me feel like I've gained some more control over my life. Having it down on paper makes it feel so much more tangible, at least for me. And so that's just like helped me so much with my mental health. I feel like writing down lists, breaking it down into more attainable chunks has really helped me. Also, when I do like visualization paragraphs, I know not everybody's into like the law of attraction and manifestation, but I think if you are a writer, it serves a double purpose because you are kind of practicing your prose in a very low pressure, intimate, vulnerable place with yourself. Nobody has to read it. And you're also putting out to the world and to your future self exactly what you want. And so what I like to do is I'll just imagine, you know, whatever it is, finishing my book and getting it published or graduating college, whatever your goals are, any number of them, I imagine putting myself in that place and writing about it from the first person perspective as if it's already happened. It boosts my mood so much. It makes me so happy. So yeah, one of my favorite prompts that I've ever gotten was actually just to describe your ideal life. What do you do each day? How do you contribute to the world around you? Who are you with? What foods are you eating? What have you accomplished? And you don't really have to worry about the process of actually attaining whatever dream you want to write about, but I think something really magical happens when you're writing from the perspective of already having what you want. You just have to stretch your imagination, and I think as a writer especially, it's a really fun challenge, and it also really helps me to just feel good about where I'm going in my life. If you want to get emotional, you can write about the last time you cried. That's another prompt that I've gotten before, and it's not always fun, but I think journal is cheaper than therapy. So if you haven't been able to have like an emotional release for a long time, maybe you're living alone and have become sort of stoic, which sort of happened to me when I was living alone for a long time. I just didn't really have that many emotions. Oh my god, there's a plane. I just didn't feel like I had a super easy outlet to talk about my emotions or express them, and I think journaling is so wonderful for that, because even if you're in a really bad place, and I still do it now if I'm feeling frustrated, just having the power to write about it and put it into words and then being able to look back and reflect on that later is just so lovely. It really is such an asset, both to my writing process and to my mental health. So like I said, it's a double whammy, it's both. Another prompt that I've used before is just taking one very specific event and writing everything you can think about from that event. You know, sights, sounds, smells, emotions that came along with it, anything you can think of. And I think writing things like this is just so helpful in getting you to write without hesitation and getting you to write confidently. It's kind of just one of those things where you can just like spill out anything and everything you're thinking, and you don't have to be editing in the process. And this is what I'd like to be doing when I write, actually, like when I write for my project that I'm working on. But oftentimes when I write for that, there's just a higher level of pressure that I feel. I end up getting really stuck and I end up having writer's block. And so I think journaling is just like an easy stepping stone to get there. I'll also oftentimes just randomly have story ideas, and I love to just start writing my story ideas, like for short stories, even if they're not related to my project, down in my journal. And even like when I'm going through my day and I see somebody doing something interesting, or I hear like a great phrase of dialogue, I'll just jot it down, and a lot of times those will end up making their way into my stories. Just these little tidbits of real life that will make their way into a creative project that I work on later on, I think is always great. I feel like as a writer, it's always good to have a pen and paper with you, because you're always sort of investigating the world around you and mining it for things you can use. Also, some of the more mundane things I do in my journal, daily to-do lists, because I'm so weird. I'm like a type A person and I want to be super organized, but then I'm not. And so I'll end up just like writing random to-do lists and random things that I need to get done, or phone calls I have to make, emails I have to send, and scribbling. I'll just doodle randomly. Again, it's not organized, it's not beautiful, but it's all part of the process. And like I said, it makes me so happy to have a journal, especially a nice one like this. I do recommend Moleskines. They are my favorite. I had a really mini one, and those are really nice to carry around with you in your pocket, but I think this size is just a little bit easier and more manageable to write in. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you here again next time. Also, let me know down in the comments below if you ended up journaling and how it went. I'd love to hear from you. Bye.